If there's one thing I've learned about HOA Karens, it's that they don't just hate when rules get broken. They hate it when someone else is the one breaking them, but they're not. They have a strange obsession with being the arbiters of order, even if that means making their lives more miserable or causing unnecessary drama. I can tell you from experience, they often see rules as their personal playground, but only when they're the ones setting or breaking them. I still remember the night I learned this lesson the hard way. Well, maybe more the hot way considering the trouble I got into. That night, I was simply enjoying some quiet peace by my private lake, just a regular Friday night. I had set up a small fire pit to roast marshmallows, which has become a sort of weekly ritual for me. The only sounds you could hear were the gentle crackle of the fire and the distant call of birds. No blaring music blaring from a car. No shouting. No drunken idiots trying to light bonfires that burn out of control. Just a man, a fire, and a bag of jet-puffed marshmallows. A simple pleasure I cherish. Everything was peaceful, almost idyllic. I was soaking in the tranquility of nature, enjoying the cool evening breeze, when suddenly everything changed. Like a scene from a horror movie, she arrived. Not in a big, dramatic way, just as someone likely in her mind was doing her civic duty. Dressed in her beige cardigan, no doubt carefully pressed, and wedges taller than the grass, she strode across the gravel path with a flashlight that cut through the darkness like a spotlight. Her face was tight with rage or self-righteousness. I couldn't tell which. HOA, Karen had a problem with just about everything around here. My lakefront property? Too quiet, too peaceful. She probably saw that as suspicious. My mailbox? Too modern, she said with a sneer. My truck? Not HOA aesthetic. Basically, she had an opinion about everything, no matter how trivial. But that night, her biggest concern was that tiny fire pit I had. Just a small, legally approved fire pit. But in her eyes, it was the end of civilization. That little flicker of flame must have been her nightmare come true. She marched across the gravel in her wedge heels, flashing her ultra-bright flashlight that seemed almost brighter than her personality. She looked like a character from a bad sitcom, overdone and out of place. Then she practically yelled, "Fire! This is a clear HOA violation. You're risking a wildfire. I'm calling 911. She pointed her finger at me, like I was a criminal, her voice dripping with faux concern, but clearly laced with all sorts of passive-aggressive malice. I calmly raised my hand and held out my permit from the city, which clearly authorized the fire. It's legal, I said, showing her the document. See, I added, watching her eyes flick quickly back and forth between the permit and my face. She sneered further. We don't allow this kind of reckless behavior around here, she shot back, her tone dismissive but insistent. Before I could get a word in, she whipped out her phone. You could tell she was determined to make her case, which apparently included reporting things she didn't like. She dialed 911 right there on the spot to report a marshmallow roast. What happened next still feels surreal. 2 sheriff deputies arrived after a quick call, looking sleepy but professional. They checked the permit, had a quick chuckle over the absurdity of a marshmallow complaint, and gave Karen a warning about false reporting. The deputies were surprisingly good-humored about it all, asking me if I really was roasting marshmallows, as if they felt a bit embarrassed for her. That should have been the end of it. Simple. But it wasn't. The very next day, Karen didn't just forget about the incident. Instead, she went into overdrive. She emailed the entire neighborhood, everyone who lives within shouting distance, apparently, and called me a wildfire threat. She even compared my little fire pit to domestic terrorism, which seemed a bit much. Her email was filled with colorful language and exaggerated threats, painting me as some reckless neighbor who was going to burn down the community simply because I liked my s'mores. The biggest mistake Karen made? She forgot who owns this land. She's so used to dictating rules from her backyard throne that she ignored the fact that my family's ownership of this land predates the HOA. We didn't just buy a lakefront lot. We own the utilities surrounding the property, including the water pumps that bring water from the community well. It's all legal, enshrined in deeds that go back decades. This land is old. It's from a time before the HOA came along and started telling everyone what to do. When they built the subdivision, guess what? They overlooked something critical, securing water rights for the landowners. So when Karen called for me to be fined, or even evicted, I decided to respond in kind. I made a simple choice, one I knew I could legally carry out. I cut off her water supply. Completely. Permanently. Legally. You never saw someone's confidence dry up faster than when they turn on the faucet and nothing happens. No spray of water for her lemon-infused cucumber water. No pressure for a shower. No running water at all, even for basic use. Her face flushed with shock. Her mouth open to protest, but she was speechless. She stormed over to my cabin, furious, her face redder than the fire she brought to the night. "You can't do this," she shrieked, holding her hands in the air, as if demanding she be heard. I handed her a copy of the easement agreement. "Actually, I can, and I have. And your backup water source? That's also on my land." Her eyes widened in disbelief, as if her internal computer had just crashed. Her face froze into a confused, broken expression, almost like a broken software error message. Entitlement.exe has stopped working. From then on, the HOA and her couldn't do much. They tried to mediate, to negotiate, even to offer me money, but the deed was clear. My family owned that waterline fully and legally. I wasn't doing this just to be petty. I was doing what's right and what's legal. Her threats and accusations became meaningless when she realized the truth. She was not in control. Now, instead of whining about the water, she trucks in bottled water from Costco. She's probably figured it's easier than trying to sue my family or argue over land rights. Meanwhile, many of the neighbors bring me homemade cookies, jerky, and loads of firewood. They know what's fair, and they understand that sometimes you have to stand your ground. I still roast marshmallows every weekend. The bigger, the better, and often with friends who got water. Sure, it's just for fun. Here's what I've learned from all this. Boundaries exist because they protect what's yours. When someone tries to take away your peace, your land, or even your simple marshmallow roast, you have to stand up. Respect isn't optional, even if you live in a cul-de-sac filled with people who think they own more than they actually do. When push comes to shove, cut the flow where it hurts. That's the best way to remind them who really owns the land and the marshmallows.